Hogwarts, Grey Demon Lords Rise in Wizarding World. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 31. The next day, the news of Alvin's defeat of an adult troll alone spread throughout the house. Ravinder Braun, in particular, kept talking about everything she had heard from Hermione at lunchtime. Insightful explanations, plus some specific details. This made all the little wizards have to believe that it was true. Everyone is sensational again. Alvin has been enrolled for less than 2 months, and has indeed been a figure in the academy. Changing the choice of sorting hat during the sorting ceremony, the thrilling rescue of the flying class, joining the Quidditch team as a first-year team, and now defeating an adult troll. Now Alvin's limelight has overshadowed the savior. After all, since Harry entered school, he has only shown a talent for flying. As for his defense against the dark arts talent, it hasn't been shown yet for Quirrell's reasons. Alvin has once again become the focus of everyone. When it was time for dinner, Alvin came to the cafeteria to eat, and a bunch of little wizards immediately looked at him with adoring eyes. Not just the Ravenclaw students, there were some people in every house who were looking at him with hot eyes. Even Slytherin House has quite a few such little wizards. What's wrong with this? Meeting everyone's gaze, Alvin sat next to Cho, covered in hair, inquired in a low voice. What's the matter? Someone's story of another heroic rescue last night spread. Autumn said sourly, and Alvin's gums began to hurt a little when he listened. This vinegar is strong, and you don't need to ask for vinegar when you go to the house elf to order dumplings at night. What hero save beauty? I just want to challenge the trolls myself and save Hermione. Alvin smiled coyly, remembering Hermione's kiss yesterday, and said to Cho with some weakness. Cho was angry, so she simply ignored Alvin and went directly to talk to Marietta on the opposite side. Alvin was helpless, and could only slowly coax the little girl back. It's Saturday, it's Quidditch day, but it's Slytherin versus Gryffindor. Alvin and Cho, who was finally coaxed, sat with the rest of the Ravenclaw team and prepared to watch the game. Slytherin play by any means. Alvin, you have to do a good job of protecting them from our players. Cho, watch the seekers of both teams carefully. Harry can be seen by Wood, he must have his excellence, you have to study his movement habits. Roger Davis sat in the next row of Alvin, gushing to the two. In this selection, only 2 newcomers, Cho and Alvin, were selected, so Roger kept introducing them to some other players from the 2 houses. Don't worry, Roger, I'll protect our seeker, holding Aki's slender waist. Alvin said with a pun. Looking at Cho snuggled in Alvin's arms with a happy face. Roger Davis felt that he should not sit here, he should go underground. Roger Davis, who was fed a mouthful of dog food, stopped talking. He said everything that should be said, and he didn't ask for guilt. Soon, the match began, and the players of both sides took to the air and started the game. Not to be outdone, the spectators on both sides of the academy took out various banners that had been unleashed with magic to cheer for their academy teams. The 2 sides fought fiercely, but soon, many people noticed that Harry's Light Will 2000 was constantly shaking. Harry could only barely maintain his balance so he didn't fall off his broomstick. Alvin stood up, his eyes swept the audience, and quickly locked on to Professor Quirrell, who was chanting words and the same Professor Snape. Alvin knew that Quirrell was the final villain and did not hesitate. Keep eyes on Quirrell in the stands. His lips opened slightly, and a mantra was whispered. The sound is extremely small, and the surrounding environment is extremely noisy. Even Cho, who was sitting next to him, didn't hear what he was saying. But if anyone could hear what Alvin said now, it would be creepy to hear the last 4 words. Drill the heart and wrist bone. An emerald green light flashed in his eyes. Quirrell in the stands instantly stopped chanting the incantation, suddenly fell to the ground, and his whole body convulsed. The expression was very painful. At this time, Snape also found that the magic that he had been fighting with Harry on his broom had disappeared. After looking around for a while, he found nothing and stopped chanting the mantra. When the broom returned to normal, Harry successfully caught the golden snitch with his excellent eyesight and reflexes. In the end, Gryffindor defeated Slytherin 160-60. Alvin was very satisfied. He had many ways to organize Quirrell just now, but thinking that he had drawn a drill heart wrist bone 5 a while ago, he experimented with it. The result is very good. Such a long distance of wandless casting, there is no trace of the spell. Proper master of the dark arts level. Seeing the end of the game, the people of Gryffindor celebrated wildly, while the people of Slytherin were crestfallen, and Alvin had no intention of staying. Taking Cho's hand, he walked slowly towards the castle. Episode 32. Inside Quirrell's office. The host master, I was wrong, please give me another chance. Quirrell lay on the ground embarrassed, his expression hideous. It seems to be in great pain. And judging from the wails that came out of his mouth from time to time, this was even more uncomfortable than when Alvin cast the heart-drilling curse just now. The host spare me, this time someone cast a heart-drilling curse on me. Next time I will definitely solve Harry Potter. Quirrell was the only one in the classroom, and his mournful pleas for mercy made the whole classroom look very gloomy. Slowly, the scarf wrapped around his head gradually fell off, revealing not the back of his head. Rather, a face without nostrils. Exactly Voldemort. Voldemort stopped torturing Quirrell, but Quirrell kept convulsing. Forget it this time, next time if you miss again, you won't see the sun tomorrow. Voldemort also knew that Quirrell had indeed fallen under the heart-drilling curse just now, and the spellcaster's methods are very clever even he did not trace the root cause. It took a while before Quirrell slowly stood up from the ground, soaked in sweat. Great Master, do you know who just cast the heart-drilling curse on me? Is it Snape? Quirrell asked weakly. Humph. Snape? With his black magic attainments, he can't do it to the point that even I can't detect it. A cold snort of disdain came from Voldemort's mouth. It must be Dumbledore. Besides him, who else at Hogwarts has such means? Dumbledore? Isn't he a white wizard? Quirrell asked suspiciously. Are you really naive to think that Dumbledore is just a white wizard who can transfiguration? His dark arts attainment is definitely no longer under me. He's a sanctimonious bad old man. Voldemort's tone was extremely mocking, but it also concealed a deep jealousy. Quirrell didn't dare to refute, so he could only follow Voldemort's words and ask. So what do you think his purpose is in doing this? Idiot, your previous actions were too obvious and made him suspicious, and this time it was just a small warning to him. It must be like this. Hermione looked at Alvin firmly. Snape is very disgusted with Harry. It must have been Snape who just cast a curse that caused Harry to fall off the broom and fall to his death. I just told Ron, and I saw his lips chanting again. Hermione stopped Alvin, who was about to go to the library, and pulled him into a corner. Then began to tell her and Harry's inferences. Alvin said that Hermione's conclusion was too arbitrary. Snape had been working at Hogwarts for so many years. If he had the intention of murdering students, he would have been fired by Dumbledore long ago. Yes, Alvin is not going to tell the trio the truth about the matter. First, he couldn't explain how he knew so many things. Second, this is Dumbledore's first copy of Harry. If he comes up and lifts the table, isn't that a pure nothing-for-nothing move? In addition, Alvin is also ready to mix up another last-minute kick to see if he can get the Philosopher's Stone. He was still very interested in this ultimate product of alchemy. Now Alvin's ancient magic script has almost studied, and began to study the magic pattern and magic array. Magic script and magic pattern are not the same. The ultimate use of the magic pattern is magic arrays and alchemy. If you can get a Philosopher's Stone, I believe that Alvin's research progress will improve a lot. Hermione saw that Alvin didn't believe her either, and pouted angrily. She was a little upset that Alvin believed Snape so much and not her. Although he has some different feelings for Alvin, but the little witch decided that when she and Harry Ron found conclusive evidence, they must make Alvin admit his mistake and ask for his forgiveness. Thinking of this, Hermione's cute little round face couldn't help but show a smirk, very humble. Alvin looked at the little witch, who was somewhat inexplicable. I don't know what she thought, how she laughed a little silly. However, he has no heart to explore the secrets of the little witch. He now has a heavy task. The knowledge of magic is more complicated. He also has to study alchemy, by the way, and there is not enough time. Thinking of this, he did not stop and walked to the library. Hermione, who returned to her senses, saw Alvin's back immediately disappear around the corner of the corridor, and hurried after her. Alvin! You slow down, I'm going to the library too. Episode 33. Snape's office, also in the basement, not far from the potions classroom. The office was dimly lit, with shelves against the wall filled with countless jars of glass specimens, and a small door on the left that was closed. Alvin estimated that inside were some of Snape's treasured materials. On an experimental table in the center of the room, various medicinal herbs are placed. With a glance, Alvin recognized the material as an enhancer. An enhancer is something used to recall memories deep in the mind. If you forget something, drink a bottle and make sure you can remember every word. It is definitely something that those scribes who travel through parallel worlds dream of. This potion is so valuable in the wizarding world that even 7th graders may not have access to it. Many dark wizards like this thing very much. The wisdom potion plus the truth agent, it definitely makes people say how many times they peed in bed when they were children. It is only appropriate to press some secrets. But Alvin didn't care. Maybe Snape hadn't had time to clean up yet. He was now more concerned about what the old bat had called him over. Snape put the leftover materials from the class into a large box. Then he looked at Alvin. Gaunt, what are you waiting for? Refining me an enhancer out of the materials on the table. I don't have much stock of some materials. You only have one chance. Snape's voice was still so cold, without the slightest emotion. Alvin was dumbfounded. What do you mean? Is the old bat looking for child labor? Isn't this afraid that he will make a mistake in refining and destroy a piece of material? Some of the materials are very expensive, such as 15 galleons for the feathers of the soundbird, and 100 galleons for the venom of the eight-eyed spider. There are others, and the total cost of these raw materials hits 150 galleons. It's time to catch up with the Lightwheel 2000. Lightwheel 2000 set price 200 galleons, Firebolt 1500 galleons. Professor, aren't you afraid that I will mess up the potion? Alvin tried to reason with Snape. Unfortunately, Snape did not receive the signal. If you mess up, refine me 10 bottles of joy elixir as compensation. Bye. Alvin secretly cursed in his heart, 20 galleons a bottle in the joyful potion market. The raw materials are not expensive, it is pure craft money. Snape is not a loss. Alvin knew that he could not resist, so he could only go to the test table and refine. The crush of the crush, the cut of the cut. Alvin's hand is like a unicorn arm, stable and steady, and the treatment of each material has been done to the extreme. Even the standard of particles is almost perfect. Then, in order, mix and stir a part of the ingredients and add them to the crucible boiled up. Then stir appropriately with magic, constantly test the critical point, and then add the next part of the material. And just like that, 3 hours flew by. Snape's face was expressionless, and his heart was indeed galloping. Why has this kid become powerful again? Snape called Alvin over today at Dumbledore's request to open a small stove for this brat. Although every time Snape feeds Alvin in class, however, he also appreciates the other party's talent in potions, so every time he will increase the difficulty a little to see where Alvin's limit is. I didn't expect Alvin to grow so fast, and now even the potion that he would not learn before graduation would be refined. I originally wanted to give Alvin a dismount and kill his sharp energy, but he was slapped in the face. Snape is worried now. Even the enhancer can be used. What potions can I teach him? Do you really have to take out the bottom of the box? After a while, Alvin sweated profusely and put the golden liquid boiled from the crucible into the bottle. Then he looked at Snape. Snape didn't speak, went straight to the lab table, and picked up the bottle full of potion. Looked. Well, golden in color, with a hint of red light, it is a qualified bottle of wisdom enhancer, and it's a good level. If you add the venom of the eight-eyed spider, stir counterclockwise 3 times before putting in the cult roots, this potion will raise the level up. But the book Mad Pharmacy says that if you add it directly, it will make the medicinal materials fuse faster. Alvin subconsciously refuted Snape, and after saying that, he found that something was wrong. Peeking at a book in the forbidden area, Ravenclaw deducts 2 points. Don't let me find out that you secretly went to the forbidden book area, and I won't deduct you 50 points. Snape's slightly gloating voice sounded. Alvin knew that was the case. This book is a book in the forbidden book area, and it is good that he does not mention the name, and he can also pull the prescription he obtained from somewhere else. But mentioning the title of the book does not mean that it is not a self-confession. Snape saw Alvin bow his head and not speak. His mood was even happier, and even there was a trace of warmth in his words. That book was published before I went to school, and now he's outdated, and as a wizard, you have to be inquiring. Don't trust books for everything. You know, even the books in the forbidden book area are written by wizards. After listening to Snape's words, Alvin casually did not change on the surface, but he still agreed with it in his heart. Although Alvin is now extremely talented, his research on potions is still stuck in scripted terms. Snape, on the other hand, embarked on his own path early, hitting the realm of full letters. Not as good as no books. Glancing at Alvin, who looked down in contemplation, Snape walked to the side door, opened the door and put the enhancer in his hand in a small compartment inside. After thinking about it, he went behind his desk again, took out a notebook from the drawer, and handed it to Alvin. Coming back to his senses, Alvin took the notebook. Although it looks a little old, it is very well preserved. Opening it and flipping it slightly, Alvin knew that this was Harry's plug-in in the 6th part, the Notes of the Half-Blood Prince. Harry had learned a lot about potions and many spells. It was also from that time that he opened up some gap with ordinary wizards. Pretending not to know, Alvin casually finished flipping and pretended to say casually, "Notes from the Half-Blood Prince? Professor, whose notebook is this, so narcissistic, and call himself a prince?" Snape's face darkened when he heard this roared and said, "Get out of my office. Gaunt." Alvin secretly smiled in his heart, knowing that the counterattack was successful, he would not continue to die, and was ready to slip away. But just as he opened the door and walked out, Snape's words came to his ears. Episode 34. Walking out of Snape's office, Alvin pondered Snape's last words. At the end, Snape asked Alvin to come to his office every week after potions class. Snape would then have to check not only his potions level, but also the progress of the spells in his notebook. Although he doesn't know why he did it, he gave him the notes at Snape, and he decided that he must let Snape live until the end of the show. Looking at the forums before, Alvin knew that this note was very special to Snape, and some of the potions were done by Snape and Lily together. It was okay to give this thing to Harry, but Snape did give it to him first now, and it still made Alvin a little moved. Compare hearts to hearts, Snape treats him like this, and he is not a wolf-hearted person, and he will definitely pull him in the future. Soon, the time was coming for the weekend, and it was Quidditch match day, and Ravenclaw was about to play Hufflepuff. Roger Davis pulled all the players to the Quidditch pitch early to warm up. It can be seen that he cares a lot about this competition. Soon, other young wizards also arrived, as did the Hufflepuff team. At 9 o'clock sharp, the players of both sides took off and the game began. This time the commentary is Lee Jordan. Alvin now has a good relationship with him, and has taken him with him several times to the kitchen for late-night snacks. With the twins coming and going is naturally familiar. Well, now the players on both sides are in the air, and the Hufflepuff players are. Then we look at Ravenclaw, first their captain, Roger Davis, as the pursuer. Next, our most talented little wizard in 50 years of Hogwarts. Alvin Gaunt, who set a first-year record for entering the Quidditch team with Harry Potter of Gryffindor. Lee Jordan frantically boasted about Alvin and gave face to his friends. Professor McGonagall next to him was a little unbearable. "Jordan, watch your stand." Hearing Professor McGonagall shout, Lee shrunk her neck and then stopped bragging. Finally, there's Ravenclaw's seeker, Ravenclaw's cutest girl. Autumn Zhang. Many people know that her relationship with Alvin Gaunt is extraordinary. But what many people don't know is that once a little wizard saw the two of them in. Alvin and Cho's broom stagnated at the same time, and Cho almost fell off the broom. "Jordan!" Professor McGonagall's roar resounded through the amplification spell. Hermione in the audience glared at Lee Jordan in the commentary booth like an angry little lion. Many little witches also looked at him angrily. However, there are also many male wizards who express regret. Why didn't Professor McGonagall shout slowly, so as to complete the rest of the words? Alvin was also shocked into a cold sweat just now, stepping on a horse. Next time he has to set a warning spell. Coming back to his senses, the club in his hand swung fiercely, hitting the flying bludger, and the swim-around struck a Hufflepuff chaser like a cannonball. The chaser was obviously startled, and the ghost ball in his hand fell. Roger Davis took the opportunity to pick it up and sped towards the Hufflepuff half. Alvin catches up with another bludger and whips it at another Hufflepuff. He finally had time to observe Cho. Now Autumn is flying disorderly in the sky. A blue silk bunched into a ponytail looks quite neat and has a heroic spirit. This usually formed a strong contrast with the somewhat glutinous good girl in front of Alvin. But this kind of Autumn, Alvin feels good, and he feels even more beautiful. Hufflepuff Seeker is also constantly hovering high in the air, but he also watches Autumn from time to time. Touching his chin, Alvin thought back to the name of the Seeker. What is his name? It seems to be called What Edward. No, that's another show. That's right. It's called Cedric Diggory. This seems to be the gossip boyfriend of the fourth part of Cho's Eye. They also attended the ball together. Thinking of this, Alvin's gaze suddenly became sharp, and then he looked at Cho from time to time now. This is a thief's heart that does not die. At this time, Alvin didn't think about it at all. Is there a possibility? Probably. Cedric was watching if Cho had found the golden snitch? Alvin was suddenly unhappy, leaned forward slightly, and the red rabbit under the seat. No, the light wheel 2000 accelerated abruptly. Look. The Ravenclaw genius has accelerated. He rushed to a bludger. Lee Jordan spotted Alvin's movement with sharp eyes and shouted excitedly. I saw Alvin rush to a bludger, slam a stick, hit the ball at Cedric high in the air, and added a strong spin. Cedric was completely oblivious to the impending danger. Until I heard the wind next to my ears and subconsciously lowered my head, I narrowly avoided the bludger's attack. And the powerful spin on the bludger made it fly back around Alvin. Alvin did it again and hit the ball back in Cedric's direction. At this time, Lee was already excited and couldn't help himself. Bludger was hit by Alvin at Cedric. Oh, and what's going on? It's flying back to the side. Alvin hit out again. Oh my god. What kind of ball skill is this? Is this something I can watch without paying money? Bludgers kept hitting Cedric, and he was now completely unable to find the golden snitch. The spectators at this time were also stunned. They had never seen such an outrageous batsman, nor had they ever seen this way of playing. So there was a magical scene on the field. Alvin kept hitting the bludger at Cedric, and he completely ignored the others. Autumn at this time is also strange why Alvin has been targeting Cedric. But she didn't have to worry about Cedric's interference, patiently found the golden snitch. 10 minutes later, Cho successfully caught the golden snitch, and this particular match was over. In the end, Ravenclaw defeated Hufflepuff 170-10. The players on both sides fell to the ground. Cho smiled and hugged Alvin. Then asked suspiciously, "Why do you keep attacking Diggory all the time? You don't care about other players all the time. I see he always peeks at you. This kid has bad intentions." Alvin was very upset. Poof, Aki laughed, the branches of laughter trembling. She had never seen Alvin jealous, and she suddenly felt that such Alvin was also very cute. Stupid, of course he wants to observe me, he wants to prevent me from finding the golden snitch first. Yes? Alvin was a little weak-hearted. Why didn't he think of this stubble just now? Episode 35. Looking at Alvin's weak-hearted appearance, Cho's laughter became even louder. Although Alvin is pure jealousy, Cho is still very happy, which is exactly the performance of her sweetheart caring about her. As for Cedric, who suffered from the calamity of innocence. Sorry, Cho means don't know. Cedric Diggory, who is that? Don't delay me to see my boyfriend jealous. Listening to Cho's laughter, Alvin became more and more embarrassed. At this time, Cedric Diggory and other Hufflepuff players also came over. There is no grudge between the two houses, and it is normal to say hello after a game. Cedric, who was covered in injuries, walked next to Alvin, stretched out his hand, and said with a wry smile. "Hello, my name is Cedric Diggory, and I know you, Alvin Gaunt. Have I offended you before?" Looking at Cedric, who had a blue nose and swollen face, Alvin was also a little embarrassed, and he hid it all by himself. No, I just think you're a threat to Cho, and your flying skills are good. I'm embarrassed today." Alvin said nice words, ready to fool Cedric away. Cho next to him covered his mouth and snickered when he saw it. Cedric also felt nothing after hearing it and approved of his statement. After all, Alvin also avoided the key part and hit. "I can't compare to you, your batting skills are so good, you should be in the national team." Cedric also expressed his approval of Alvin, and then left with the others. Alvin also pulled Cho and ran away, for fear of being sacked by the little wizard of Hufflepuff. It's December, and outside the castle, it's already snowing heavily. The meadows are also covered with snowflakes, and the land is pale. Christmas is also approaching. The deans of the houses began to ask the young wizards about their stay on Christmas Day. Alvin was alone and naturally stayed. Originally, Cho also wanted to stay here with Alvin to spend a wonderful Christmas holiday with him. But just a week before Christmas, Cho received a letter from home. Jeong Cho's mother rejected Cho's idea, saying that she and Cho's father were going to take her back to the east. Autumn is very helpless. Out of guilt for Alvin, Cho can be described as obedient to Alvin these days. Alvin has received a lot of benefits as a result. He didn't care. It's just a few days away, and when the Christmas holiday passes, can't the two still be together every day? However, Cho's gift can only be given before he starts school. This was a surprise he had carefully prepared for Cho. Sending off the tearful Autumn, Alvin returned to the castle. Suddenly, a brown-haired ball ran over and pulled Alvin into a corner. It was Hermione. Alvin said a little helplessly, "Hermione, why are you so sneaky every time? What is going on to come to such an unoccupied place?" Hermione blushed when she heard this. "Yes, why do you have to go to a no-one place first every time you look for Alvin?" But she didn't have time to dwell on it. Hurry to speak. "Alvin, I need your help. Do you know who Nicholas Flamel is?" Alvin suddenly, "Hermione, did they still find out here?" Alvin thought about it and decided to tell Hermione. After all, they would know this later, and now tell her that Hermione of the province wasted too much time on useless books. Nicholas Flamel was a great alchemist, and his greatest work was the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone can make people immortal, and it can also make Gold. Nicolame and his wife have lived from the 14th century to the present. At the same time, he was also a good friend of Dumbledore. He was also one of the founders of Beaux Batons, a French school of magic. After speaking, Alvin quietly looked at Hermione, who had a small mouth slightly open. "Yes, the Philosopher's Stone. Snape's target is the Philosopher's Stone." "Thank you, Alvin. I still have something to do, and I'll go first." After the little witch finished speaking, she found that the behavior of throwing it when it was used up was more slag, so she prepared to reproduce the scene, nodded her foot, and kissed it. Alvin had been taken advantage of once, how could Hermione succeed again? So he turned his head directly, found Hermione to kiss him on the cheek, on the lips, and kissed him. Hermione's eyes widened and her brain stopped thinking. The body also froze, without the slightest intention of resisting. It wasn't until Alvin's lips slowly left her lips that she came to her senses. "You." Glancing at Alvin fiercely, Hermione's face turned red, and her fair skin seemed to ooze blood. Pushing Alvin away and holding her arms, Hermione ran away as if running for her life, without looking back. Alvin smiled. Kiss is not a kiss, as for? However, listening to Hermione's words just now, they still suspected that Snape was the bad guy and were ready to steal the Philosopher's Stone. I don't know how Hermione and Ron will react in the end when they find out that the final boss is Quirrell. It's really funny. Episode 36. On the other side, Hermione ran into the common room and came to Harry and Ron. Two men are playing wizard chess. Ron killed Harry and threw away his armor and collapsed. Harry's pawns kept giving him advice because of Harry's improper command. Each pawn spoke again, annoying Harry. Just as he saw Hermione coming, Harry quickly swept his hand and knocked down all the pieces on the chessboard, then asked Hermione. How's it, Hermione? Does Alvin know who Nicholas Flamel is? Also, why is your face so red? Ron next to him opened his mouth and looked at Harry. His eyes became very strange. Hermione heard Harry's last question, and her already flushed face became even redder. It's okay, I just ran too fast, just catch my breath. Hermione hurriedly explained, then the topic was diverted. Alvin, he knows who Nicolamay is, and has already told me. Hearing him say this, Harry was also distracted, and Ron next to him also came over. Harry and Ron agreed to ask Alvin about it. Alvin and Harry have a good relationship. Unlike Hermione, Alvin's homework can always be easily borrowed. And Harry thinks that Snape always targets Alvin in potions class, actually, a small stove. In addition to the fact that both of them grew up in the Muggle world, there are also some common topics. Alvin is arguably his best friend at Hogwarts besides Ron. As for Ron, he has nothing to do with Alvin, but Alvin has a good relationship with his twin brother. Ron could often see Fred George getting together with Alvin. Growing up being teased by twins, Ron adores and fears Alvin, who can play with his brother and always stands in the C position. The only one who disagreed was Hermione, who didn't want to rely on Alvin for everything. She wanted to settle the matter by herself and make Alvin impress her. Such a strong little witch soaks in the library every day, frantically looking for clues of Nicole Flamel. So the search for Nicholas Flamel's information has been dragged to the present. A month has passed, and this matter cannot be said to be without progress, but can only be said to be standing still. Harry and Ron couldn't stand it anymore, and if it dragged on, it was estimated that Snape had completed his evil plan. Under the soft and hard bubble of the two people, Hermione was finally moved today, so there was the scene just now. Next, Hermione repeated Alvin's words to the other two, adding her own inferences by the way Harry and Ron were also convinced that Snape's goal was the Philosopher's Stone. But none of this has anything to do with Alvin, he just needs to show up at the end and try to get the Philosopher's Stone, and that's it. December 24th. The heavy snowfall that had fallen all day yesterday finally stopped. The school has long been closed, and the little wizards in the academy who do not go home for the new year have nothing to do, and they have run out of the castle to play in the snow. Tired of reading, Alvin also decided to go out for a walk and change his mood. He had recently been studying Snape's potions notes, and Snape was worthy of a generation of potions masters. That notebook is not only about his experience as a student, and he is still constantly revising the content above. It can be said that Snape has worked all his life. Outside, the young wizards have already started their own activities, and some of them have snowball fights. Some of the little wizards built snowmen. However, the wizarding world is not the same as the Muggle world. With a wave of the wand, a bunch of small snowballs were made, and then without passing the hand, directly shot at the opposite person with a spell. A single person can throw several snowballs at once. Just a joke between a few people can actually make Alvin see the momentum of the exchange of fire between the two armies. Whoosh! A dozen snowballs smashed over. Alvin couldn't dodge and directly used the defensive spell. Armor Protector. A dozen snowballs crashed into an invisible barrier and fell to the ground. Look in the direction where the snowball came. I saw the twins standing there, constantly waving their wands to create snowballs and laughing at Alvin. You are foul. No magic defense. Alvin is also playing with a big heart, 1 against 2, not talking about martial arts. Without taking out his wand, he pointed his finger at the ground, and the snow on the ground quickly floated into a large ball, and then divided into dozens or hundreds of fist-sized snowballs. Alvin also deliberately compressed it to increase the hardness of the snowball. Smiled evilly at the dumbfounded twins. 10,000 bullets. All the snowballs instantly smashed into Fred and George, smashing them with their heads and their arms. It didn't take long for a makeshift white chess piece to be erected. Means surrender. Alvin didn't continue, he just got up to play with the twins on an improvised basis. Letting the twins go, he simply sat down and watched as a few little witches over there had built the castle. They built a snowy castle like Hogwarts, not to mention, it was really a little similar. After a while, Alvin also felt a little tired. Just as he was about to go back, his eyes suddenly saw that Professor Quirrell, who did not know when he came out, was was being chased by the twins and smashed snowballs, and the twins were picking at the scarves on his head and beating him. Quirrell was beaten with a rat on his head, his hands clutching the back of his turban. Alvin shook his head. This Quirrell is such a fool. Wouldn't it be nice if you used spells? Or is Voldemort afraid that Dumbledore will find a flaw? Let him use less magic? But the twin brothers are really ruthless, chasing Voldemort's face and smashing. This should be regarded as the peak of Gemini's life, right? No wonder there was only one Gemini left, one of the Dark Lord's life stains. Fortunately, after a while, Filch in the distance rushed over. Seeing that the situation was not good, the twins ran away with a smoke. Professor Quirrell, are you okay? Filch picked Quirrell up on the ground and carefully swept the snow from him. Nothing, it's okay. Quirrell stammered in response, his voice still a little shaky. Stupid. Why don't you use magic? Have your brains been eaten by dogs? Out of Filch's reach, Voldemort's voice roared in Quirrell's head. The host, I'm afraid I'm affecting your plans. Quirrell replied to Voldemort with a fearful thought. Are you all right, Professor Quirrell? Although they had already run away, their redheads had exposed them. Don't worry, I'll go to Professor McGonagall now and lock them up. Filch vowed. Quirrell simply coped with 2 sounds and hurried away. Seeing this, Alvin also knew that there was no drama to watch, also walked towards the castle. Episode 37. Hogwarts, Great Hall. At this time, the auditorium is full of Christmas atmosphere. More than 100 chubby turkeys, piled into a hill of roasted meat and boiled potatoes, a large plate of sausages, bowls of meat sauce, and a variety of vegetable salads. It seems that the house elves at Hogwarts are doing their best this time. It's been almost 4 months since he arrived at Hogwarts, and Alvin thinks that only the food at the sorting ceremony can match this one. In addition to this, wizard fireworks are also placed near the 4 long tables. Fred and George had brought some of this stuff to Alvin. A gentle pull on the fire rope can cause all sorts of strange effects. The last time the twins gave him, it would leave some powder of large dung eggs after the explosion, and if it was stained on his body, he would not try to eliminate the breath within a day. However, Alvin was cursed by a wind to teach Fred and George to be people. Alvin gently picked up a wizard firecracker and gently pulled it. Bang! The top of the firecrackers erupted with a cannon-like roar, and a large plume of blue smoke filled the air. At the same time, a bag of Bibido beans popped out of it, as well as a few chocolate dolls. The professors in the classroom were also very different from usual, and Dumbledore smiled like a child in his 100s, and crazy with a women's hat, make Professor McGonagall next to him laugh. Professor Flitwick constantly uses magic to conjure up that legendary goblin. Each Pokemon emits a glow and is of a different color. They fly in midair, adding another touch of romance to this auditorium. Alvin knew that these goblins were just forgeries made of magic. After a certain period of time, it will disappear by itself. There were not many young wizards who stayed on campus for the holidays, and Alvin did not continue to eat at the Ravenclaw long table, and was directly pulled down by the twins to the Gryffindor long table. Hello, my name is Percy. A boy, also with red hair, greeted Alvin. Alvin also smiled and said hello. This is the older brother of the twins, the prefect of Gryffindor. The other lion cubs also welcomed Alvin, who was a courtesan, and every student liked him. Only a part of the little witches in Slytherin house liked him. Soon, everyone just talked and laughed. Ron took out another set of wizard chess pieces and prepared to play a game with Harry. But Harry would not be fooled, and he hurried to Seamus and tinkered with the model of the Chaudhry artillery team. Alvin couldn't help but sigh that the entertainment projects in the wizarding world were really lacking. When you succeed in alchemy, you must make something fun. In the end, Fred snatched away his prefect badge, while Percy was teaching Alvin how to be a prefect. Then Percy ran after the twins throughout the auditorium. At this point, everyone is also a little tired, ready to go back to sleep well, and get up tomorrow morning to open the gifts. Early in the morning, Alvin rubbed his sleepy eyes and got up. When he woke up, he saw the packages piled up in front of the bed into a hill. Originally, he had expected that he would receive a lot of gifts, but in this way, there were a lot more than expected, and the entire bedroom was full. So, Alvin began his happy unpacking journey. Unpacking a gift is like opening a blind box, you never know what's inside. Therefore, even after a busy morning, he still enjoys it. The first is Cho's gift, and Cho gives him a scarf. Looking at the slightly scribbled pattern, Alvin knew that Cho must have knitted it herself, and Alvin decided to wear this scarf to pick her up when Cho returned. The twins gave a candy of their own, which after eating it would make the little wizard's voice change briefly. The male voice became a female voice, and the girl became a male voice. It's interesting. He was going to make another sex potion for Harry to eat. Hermione gave her a manuscript of her history of magic notes, knowing that Alvin never listened to lectures in history of magic class. This is very much in line with Alvin's heart. Harry gave him a set of flying broom care tools, and Lee Jordan gave him a copy of the Irish Quidditch classic. There were other candy notebooks sent by some other little wizards or something. But what surprised Alvin the most was the professors of the 4 colleges, each of whom gave him a gift. Professor McGonagall sent a magazine, Transfiguration Today, which is the most authoritative academic journal of transfiguration in the wizarding world, and ordinary people are not qualified to buy it. Professor Sprout sent a pot of starlight sunflowers, which are a good ornamental plant that closes during the day and absorbs the light of the stars at night. His dean sent him a copy of his notes on the understanding of spells. Although it was a copy, it was also very precious. In the world of martial arts, this is the cultivation virtue of a master. The most surprising thing was that Snape actually sent him a bottle of elixir. Although Alvin has drawn a blessing elixir, but this does not mean that this potion is no longer precious in the magical world, and such a small bottle of elixir is estimated to be able to buy the Weasleys. Alvin was glad that he hadn't forgotten these headmasters when he gave the gifts, and even he sent Dumbledore some woolen socks. This Christmas, Alvin's gift, the most spent gold galleon, is Autumn's flying broom, the Light Wheel 2001. That's right, it was 2001, and through Professor Flitwick's connections, Alvin spent a lot of money 6 months in advance to buy the Light Wheel 2001, which will be released next year. Gave it to Aki. Hermione was given the entire series of books by Lockhart, who would be coming to Hogwarts to teach next year, and although the man himself was not good, the authenticity of the stolen story and content was good. The number of gold galleons that Muggle families can redeem each year is limited, and Alvin is afraid that Hermione will buy these books next year and eat soil at school, which can be regarded as well-intentioned. As for the twins and Harry, Alvin sent them a spell each, giving the twins an upside-down golden bell, and giving Harry his natal charm, except for your weapon. But the most precious thing is a spell he gave to Snape, the Realm of Eden. This is the other day, Alvin daily lottery draw. This magic can extract the memories in the mind, form a spiritual space, and then you can put the spiritual body into it. It is similar to the usefulness of the meditation basin, but the spiritual body itself can indeed communicate with people in the memory space. How those people react is self-generated based on the caster's impression of the person. I'm sure Professor Snape will be satisfied with this magic. I really want to see how Snape will behave in memory space. The little fox smiled, and Alvin thought very gossipy. Episode 38. Inside the potions office. Snape held a pamphlet in a daze and didn't say a word. This booklet, officially Alvin sent his spell Eden Realm spell, and some tricks. Thinking of Alvin, Snape's heart was still a little complicated. The same hybrid, the same beloved witch, the same talent in potions. Well, but this kid is better than him in other disciplines. However, the choices of the 2 men were decidedly different, and Snape chose Slytherin. But Erwin chose his little witch. Sometimes Snape wondered if he had gone to Gryffindor, wouldn't everything be the same? So, he kept an eye on Alvin, because Alvin represented another possibility, a possibility he wanted most. But now, Alvin has sent the spell so that Snape can find the answer for himself. Looking through the booklet, I looked at Alvin's introduction to the spell above. The more you know a person, the more you can shape an effect that is close to reality. Whether it was Lily, or that abominable James Potter, Snape dared to guarantee the ticket, and he was definitely the person who knew them best, not one of them. Even James Potter's Blake can't compare to him. Thinking of this, Snape gritted his teeth and began to learn about the realm of the Garden of Eden. With his current level, in less than half a day, he successfully mastered this spell. Without hesitation, the wand was aimed at his temple and pulled out a wisp of smoke. The Garden of Eden reappears. Uttering the incantation, the scene in front of Snape's eyes changed, becoming the scene of his sorting ceremony. Looking at that face that he will never forget, Snape's eyes were red, and tears had already appeared. Forcibly calming his mood and taking a few deep breaths, Snape pulled out a spiritual power and poured it into little Snape's body, replacing him. In the spiritual space, Snape stepped onto the podium and put on his sorting hat. Nice talent, well, bloodline can too. The lazy voice of the sorting hat came. Shut up. I'm going to Gryffindor. Snape heard the same comment as he had made and immediately interrupted. Boy, what did you say? The sorting hat was confused. I hadn't seen such a horizontal little wizard in so many years. I said, shut up. I'm going to Gryffindor. Never mind what bloodline, ambition. I just want to go to Gryffindor. Snape roared inwardly, and couldn't wait to roar. The sorting hat seemed to be frightened and immediately agreed. Gryffindor. Boy, take me off your head. Snape immediately took off his hat and couldn't wait to get off the high platform and come to the girl who had appeared in his dreams countless times, but could never see each other again. Lily. He murmured softly, as if a little bit in his voice would scare the girl in front of him. I didn't expect you to come to Gryffindor, you keep saying you want to go to Slytherin. Lily didn't notice that Snape in front of her had changed someone, should it count, said happily. Where you are, I am. Snape's categorical answer made Lily stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Snape to say such a thing. A blush appeared on his face. What are you talking about? Lily's tone stammered. We're best friends, of course we're in an academy, aren't we? Snape reacted too, he didn't control himself, he was too excited. Next, although Snape, who became a lion cub, was a little out of place in this house, he had more time with Lily, and did not say those hurtful words. The two gradually deepened their relationship, attending classes together every day, going to the library together, and studying potions together. And James Potter, seeing that the two were so good, had no room to start, and turned to pursue a Quidditch team member. The intersection between the two sides gradually decreased. The good times did not last long. Due to Voldemort's relationship, the entire wizarding world fell into darkness, and Lily joined the Order of the Phoenix because she worshipped Dumbledore. In the end, both of them died in a mission. Reality, Potions Office. Snape withdrew his spirit body and slowly opened his eyes. Although a long time has passed in the memory space, the reality is only a few minutes. Although there were tears in his eyes, deep tear marks formed on his cheeks. But the corners of Snape's mouth were indeed smiling. He could finally be sure that Lily had feelings for him, and he had indeed buried all this with his own hands and gave Lily away. Some people, once missed, are forever. Episode 39. For the next few days, Snape was obsessed with the Garden of Eden. Although he knew it was fake, this magic was too real. Let a strong-willed person like him fall deeply into it. And the source of this matter, our protagonist Alvin, knows nothing about it. Although it is a holiday these days, Alvin has a lot of things, studying Snape's notebook, studying magic patterns, and even alchemy. However, in the past few days, Alvin's hand itched and couldn't help but draw the card once, and the result sank unexpectedly. Only a guaranteed gold card and some purple cards were drawn. Name, Nico Flamel. Potions talent, 5. Transfiguration talent, 5. Spells, omitted. Special skill, alchemy. Tangled for a long time, Alvin still chose Nico Flamel's knowledge of alchemy. Although he also needed the talent of transfiguration, his knowledge of alchemy was more valuable. The amount of knowledge brought by the gold card is not comparable to other cards, and in just an instant, Alvin's half-hanging alchemy has improved to a world-class level. And his control over the magic pattern and magic text has also been greatly improved. Even other subjects have improved a lot. Alchemy is not a separate academic subject, but essentially a combined application of various magical knowledge. Naturally, this knowledge includes other subjects. Alvin was pleasantly surprised by this harvest, and it was definitely more profitable than choosing transfiguration talent. However, so much knowledge suddenly appeared in his mind, Alvin needed some time to settle, and when he completely digested the memory of this time, he could start his plan. Therefore, in the past few days of the Christmas holiday, Alvin has been holding a notebook to write and draw, and from time to time flipping through reference books as high as a hill. Even the twin brothers did not agree to invite him to Hogsmeade. And on this day, there was a knock on the door of Alvin's room. Opening the door, there was a Ravenclaw boy standing outside, saying that Harry was waiting for him outside the common room. Alvin was curious, and walked out of the bedroom. Harry had never come to the Ravenclaw common room to look for him like that. This is the first time. Out of the common room door, Alvin saw Harry pacing back and forth. "Harry!" Alvin exclaimed. Harry came back to his senses, saw Alvin, and took his hand excitedly. "Go, Alvin, follow me somewhere." Quietly broke free of Harry's hand. Alvin was a little Harry. Why is Harry a little strange today? Where to? Why don't you call Ron? Harry looked anxious and didn't pay attention to the movements of Alvin's hands. Ron went with me once yesterday, and today he didn't want to come, and said that I had a problem, and I had no choice but to find you. Hearing this, Alvin panicked even more, and then think about where this is, the corrupt country. Especially, it seems that it is true that he is too handsome to attract the same, and the old brother of the palace bar sincerely does not deceive me. Thinking in his heart, Alvin spoke, weighing the words in his mouth, and said to Harry. "Harry, you know, I don't object to something, but I have." Before he could finish speaking, Harry understood what Alvin meant, hurriedly retorted. "What do you think, Alvin? I found a mirror." When Harry finished explaining, Alvin understood that he had misunderstood and knew that the mirror was the mirror of Eris. A magic mirror that shows what people desire most. Alvin is also curious about what he desires most in his heart. So he agreed to Harry and followed him. Coming to the 5th floor, Harry led Alvin into an abandoned classroom. In the middle of the classroom is a very imposing mirror, reaching the ceiling, a gorgeous gold frame, supported by 2 claw-shaped feet. When Harry came to this room, he couldn't care about Alvin anymore, walked to the magic mirror a few steps, and looked at it obsessively. Alvin, do you see, these are my parents. With that, Harry also reached out and touched the mirror, as if he could touch his parents. Alvin watched this scene quietly, although Harry's state was a little wrong, but he did not rush to pull Harry away. He is already pitiful, let him enjoy the warmth of family affection again. Wait until the day is over, talk to Harry about the harm and ask him not to come back in the future. After a long time, Harry gradually came to his senses and looked at Alvin embarrassedly. Do you want to try it? No thanks, Harry, I've seen it, let's go. Alvin lied, he hadn't looked at the magic mirror yet, just now Harry's whole person was lying on the side, how could he still have a chance to look in the mirror? The two left the classroom and walked down the road, and Alvin admonished Harry. Harry, I know that you are eager to see your parents' mood and understand you, but I have to say that you are in a very wrong state right now. This mirror will reflect what your heart desires most, but it is not real, you should come out and return to the real world. Harry looked at Alvin in shock. He knew that Alvin was right, but he didn't want to believe it. He preferred to believe that it was the mark of his parents who had left here. After a long silence, Harry finally spoke. Thank you, Alvin, you're right, I won't look at this mirror in the future. After saying these words, Harry seemed to let go of something in his heart, and his whole state became better. The two went to the Great Hall for lunch together, and then Harry went back to the Gryffindor common room. Alvin, on the other hand, was going to look at the mirror. He didn't want to indulge in it, but to understand what he longed for most. After coming to this world for so many years and entering the wizarding world, Alvin has always been at ease with encounters and got by. This is especially true after having a plug-in, and the exploration of magic is also to satisfy interests and realize some fantasies in past lives by the way. If he wanted to say what he longed for most, he really couldn't say. Turning back to the 5th floor, still the abandoned classroom, Alvin suddenly felt a little weak. This Nima had just persuaded Harry away, and he had indeed come secretly. It's a bit unauthentic. Confirming that there was no one around, Alvin walked in and stood in front of the Eris magic mirror. At this time, an unexpected voice came. Mr. Gaunt, I thought you and Harry wouldn't be in this classroom again, but I didn't expect you to come so soon. Episode 40. Alvin was shocked. He instantly recognized the owner of the voice. The headmaster of this school, Dumbledore. Alvin was sure he didn't see anyone in the classroom when he came in. It is estimated that the old bee used the phantom body curse. Alvin thought silently in his heart, and his mouth did not stop. I didn't expect to see you here, Professor Dumbledore. Dumbledore walked over to Alvin with a smile. I didn't care that Chen Fan didn't answer his question. Instead, he opened his mouth to explain why he was here. I was going to come to persuade Mr. Potter, who has been here for 3 days straight, but happened to hear your conversation on the way. You are right, people cannot always live in fantasy, they always have to face reality. Alvin scolded the old bee after hearing this. What a coincidence, it's clear that you followed Harry all the way. Scolding MMP in his heart, he replied with a smile on his face. Professor, I'm talking about my inner thoughts, but I'm really curious about what this mirror can show. Alvin also does not hide it. It is useless to lie to this old fox. Even though he was confident in his brain closure. But this old fox can basically see through a person just by observing. Dumbledore listened and showed great interest. Mr. Gaunt, I'm actually curious about what the most gifted wizard at Hogwarts in 50 years can see in this mirror. Can you tell me about it? Sorry, Professor, you appeared before I could see it. Alvin said the goods appeared too quickly, I don't know it yet. After speaking, he looked at the mirror, and the picture inside slowly appeared, from blur to clear. Chen Fan finally saw that what he longed for most was. Speechless for a long time. Dumbledore asked curiously, Mr. Gaunt, what do you see? Alvin. Looking at himself in the mirror, hugging left and right, there was Cho growing up, Hermione, and several other women, and the family lived happily in a manor. Old Alvin blushed. Fake, this is definitely fake, how can I be so superficial? However, looking at the picture in the mirror, it seems that this kind of life is not bad. I shook my head and shook off some of the age-inappropriate thoughts in my head. The most important thing now is to deal with Dumbledore. Professor, I saw Cho, and the two of us have a very good relationship. Alvin told the truth, but not completely. Dumbledore was old, how could he not see that Alvin had reservations? The slick expression on Alvin's face just now couldn't be hidden from him. He also did not debunk, nodding in agreement. Young people are just full of energy. Old man, I see woolen socks. My wool socks are not enough to wear every year. By the way, thank you for Christmas, Mr. Gaunt. I received the red wool socks for the first time. Very nice. Alvin said that Dumbledore, you are a bad old man, is very bad. If it were not for your sister or Grindelwald, Alvin would dare to go to Voldemort right now. But he didn't dare to say these words. He didn't want to continue wearing them with Dumbledore now. The brain closure technique is running at high speed, for fear that his spit will be caught in a few words. If nothing happens, I'll go first, Professor. You know, Christmas homework is not easy. Making an excuse casually, Alvin was ready to slip away. Dumbledore didn't stand in the way, nod to indicate that you know. You can come and sit in my office when you have time, and the password is lemon snow cream. It would be nice to have your phoenix with you. Fox hadn't seen his companion in years. Alvin agreed and turned out of the classroom. Today's conversation, at least Alvin can see that Dumbledore is still relatively friendly to him, and Alvin is not afraid of Dumbledore. It's about not wanting to lose the piece of life now. In this academy, he had Cho, many friends, and a group of good professors, which was a warmth that Alvin, who had never felt for Alvin, a two-life orphan. Alvin knew that he had too many secrets, and one day Dumbledore would notice him. But today, it seems that the old bee must have paid attention to him for a long time, but not talking to him or having trouble for so long shows that what Alvin did not have much impact on his plans. It's still not enough strength. If the strength is enough, Dumbledore will definitely not easily fight him when he knows that there is a Voldemort. Thinking of this, Alvin's desire for strength couldn't help but deepen a lot. However, he also knows that his strength has improved rapidly, and this level can be improved by training is still too little, and he still has to rely on external plugins. For the next few days, Alvin basically did not leave his bedroom door, bored and digested the alchemy in his mind. In this situation, the Christmas holidays are quickly over, and Cho is finally returning to Hogwarts. Episode 41. Today is the day students return from the Christmas holidays. Carrying a suitcase and a large long box on his back, Cho and a few friends arrived at the long bridge at Hogwarts Castle. And a handsome boy, wearing a Hogwarts uniform and a scarf. The wand in his hand emitted a warm white light, waiting quietly. Exactly, Alvin. And as soon as Cho saw Alvin, he immediately left a few friends, quickly ran to Alvin's side, and threw himself into his arms. Alvin also opened his arms and hugged the little witch, softly said. Welcome back, Cho. I miss you so much, Alvin. After a few days, Cho missed Alvin very much. They were all about to cry. Alvin heard the choking in Cho's voice and hurriedly changed the subject. How do I feel? Like you're getting a little fatter? What? Hearing this, the little witch immediately stopped crying and reacted very violently. It seems that no matter where or what grade women are, they are very concerned about their weight. Really, Alvin? Could it be that I've eaten too well these days? Blame my dad for taking me back to China. The food there is so delicious, I can't control myself. When she heard Cho expertly throw the pot to her father, Alvin cried out in his heart. Is this the legendary filial piety? But you can't continue to stimulate the little witch, and if you continue to talk about it, you will drop the beans again. It's too cold here, let's go back to the auditorium, and you haven't eaten dinner yet. The two walked towards the auditorium, and a group of young wizards behind looked at Cho enviously. Why don't they have such gentle and considerate and handsome boyfriends? Hermione, on the other hand, pursed her lips and silently followed the others to move on. After returning to the auditorium, Cho simply ate something and kept telling Alvin about the manager in the past few days, but it was mainly Chinese food. If you have time for the summer, we must go back again. Finally, Cho concluded, then she talked about the gift. Thank you for the gift, Alvin, but this broom is too expensive for me to ask for. Alvin didn't think it was very expensive, and his daily check-in often rewarded Jean Guerin. The minimum was 100, and this broom was a matter of a few days of sign-in. Just take it, I helped Snape refine a lot of potions, and he paid a lot. This money is nothing to me. Taking Snape out as a shield and explaining where the gold gallons came from, Alvin continued. And it's also engraved with your name. If you don't want it, it's not easy to dispose of it. Seeing Alvin say this, Cho had to take it, but she was curious about how Alvin got the light will 2001 half a year in advance. Alvin explained Professor Flitwick's relationship, and Cho's inner doubts were finally answered. The following month, nothing big happened in the academy. Alvin had a busy month, and in addition to classes, he had to attend Quidditch training, Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration Club and Snape's special guidance. If it weren't for his time management skills, he might have been dizzy long ago. Alvin decided not to go to Professor McGonagall's Transfiguration Club from next semester. After all, at his current level, there was very little that the club said would help him. During the month, there was also a Quidditch match between Ravenclaw and Slytherin. When Cho took out the light wheel 2001, all the little wizards were boiling this as a product that will only be released this summer, and Autumn has one now. And the Slytherin saw that the situation was not good, and prepared to stop Autumn with foul tactics. Alas, they forgot that there was still an Alvin on the field. Without mercy, Alvin struck several Slytherin players directly off the broomstick. There were even 2 people whose hands were broken. This next time the Slytherins were finally honest and didn't dare to foul, especially the new substitutes, it was simply flying around the Autumn. Under these circumstances, Ravenclaw defeated Slytherin 280-100 to win 2 consecutive games. As long as he can beat Gryffindor again, this year's Quidditch champion will be Ravenclaws. And because of Alvin's performance, he also had the nickname of Autumn's guardian angel, which made him very speechless. However, Cho was very satisfied with this nickname. And just like that, it was one morning in February. When Alvin and Cho arrive at the auditorium, they find a group of young wizards surrounding the scoreboard. The Gryffindor students, in particular, had pained expressions. Yesterday's Gryffindor was deducted 150 points, allegedly caused by Potter and his 2 roommates on a night trip. Marietta, who had finished gossiping, came to the 2 and shared the latest news she had received. They're really unlucky. Cho didn't feel much after hearing it, but Alvin knew what was going on. It should be Hagrid's dragon-raising thing. Alvin had been asked a few times about dragons by Hermione before, and he roughly guessed that Hagrid had gotten a dragon and was discovered by Hermione. But Alvin didn't care. This kind of Western dragon is honestly quite ugly. If it is a dragon in Eastern legends, he will definitely come upside down. This time, the points were deducted by Malfoy, who reported them, and then Professor McGonagall deducted a wave of points. This is Harry. If he changes to a little wizard and breaks into such a big disaster, can he stay at Hogwarts or not? After sighing, Alvin lost interest, and had nothing to do with him anyway. But unexpectedly, in the afternoon, he was still involved in this matter. After potions class in the afternoon, Alvin followed Snape back to his office as usual. Over the years, Snape has not only taught Alvin potions, but also cultivated Alvin's combat awareness and ability. Especially after receiving the Eden Realm spell sent by Alvin at Christmas, Snape's attitude towards Alvin was much better, and he even taught Alvin some combat skills at the bottom of the box. This made Alvin shout the value of this gift. During this period of training, Snape had to use 70% of his strength to defeat Alvin. This also made Snape curse the demon secretly. But today, Snape didn't let Alvin leave after the 2 practiced against each other. Instead, he was given a task. Episode 43. It's me, Hagrid. When Hagrid heard this, he breathed a sigh of relief and turned back to the crowd. Don't be afraid, this is Ronan. He is a horseman who has been living in the Forbidden Forest. I hope he can give us some new clues. Soon the centaur Ronan walked out, and this was the first time Alvin had seen the centaur man. I couldn't help but look at it a few times. Well, worthy of his name, Ronan is indeed close to nature. Hagrid stepped forward, said hello, and then asked Ronan about unicorns. But this horseman did look secretive, just looking up at the night sky, and the god mysteriously repeated the same sentence. Mars is bright tonight. Not long after, another horseman also appeared in front of everyone, named Bane, who also refused to reveal any information. After saying goodbye to the 2 horsemen, Hagrid said with some irritation, "This is a bunch of magic sticks. Whatever you say, you must bring that damn star." But Alvin knew what the horseman meant. Mars represents war, disaster. The ancient East also called Mars the same meaning. Looks like we're going to fight Quirrell tonight. Thinking of this, Alvin secretly clenched his wand. Soon, everyone came to a fork in the road, with blood on both sides. Harry spoke then. Let's go our separate ways. Hagrid hesitated, nodded in agreement, and he chose a direction with Neville, Ron, and Malfoy. Before leaving, he kept reminding Harry that if he found something and immediately shot fireworks with his wand, they would come immediately. Alvin followed Harry to another path. The bloodstains on the road are also becoming more and more obvious. Wait a minute, Harry. I see it. Alvin stopped Harry, who continued to walk. His eyes looked at the thorny grass on the right, and Alvin saw that the figure of a unicorn faintly appeared through the gap. Alvin sent out a gust of wind with his wand, blew away the thorns, and strode over. Under a stout tree, a unicorn with a faint halo on its body stood on its knees. Silver blood continued to ooze from the white and flawless body. The slender legs barely supported this elegant body, and the mouth let out a series of wails, weaker than the other. The whole scene reveals a heartbreaking beauty. Alvin found that the unicorn was not completely dead yet, and hurried up. Ordinary unicorns do not let male wizards approach, only Holy Maiden can approach or even ride them. But now the unicorn has no strength to stop Alvin. Aiming at the unicorn, Alvin constantly unleashed the healing spell. I saw that the wound on the surface of the unicorn was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. But his breath continued to weaken. Alvin knew that this was the effect of black magic, not a simple healing charm that could heal. After thinking for a moment, Alvin reached into his pocket and took out a bottle of azure potion. This was what he had drawn in a previous lottery. Divine elixir, removes all injuries and negative states from dark forces. Alvin thought that black magic should be regarded as a dark force. Now in this situation, only a dead horse can be used as a live horse doctor. Gently opened the unicorn's mouth. The unicorn also knew that the good-looking human teenager in front of him was to save her and was very cooperative. Pouring all the potions into the unicorn's mouth, Alvin kept unleashing healing magic in hopes of alleviating her pain. Fortunately, it didn't take long for the divine potion to begin to take effect, and a burst of black smoke escaped from the unicorn's body. Alvin was afraid of any danger in this smoke, and also took 2 steps back. Sure enough, when these black smoke drifted into the sky and touched the big tree, a whole tree quickly withered and turned into a dead tree. And the unicorn also slowly stood up, walked to Alvin, and gently rubbed Alvin with her face to express gratitude. Harry next to him was stunned, and he didn't expect that the dying unicorn could be saved by Alvin. The same first-year freshman, why is the gap between the two so big? Alvin gently roamed the unicorn's smooth hair, feel the soft touch. Okay, you're all right. Woo. The unicorn let out a long roar, although it was the language of the unicorn, but Alvin magically understood what she meant. Alvin asked, you mean, you can find the dark wizard who hurt you now? The unicorn nodded and motioned for him to sit up. May I? Remembering the introduction of the unicorn, Alvin hesitated. The unicorn nodded firmly again. Alvin did not hesitate, turned over and jumped up. This unicorn should not have reached adulthood, otherwise her height at the time of the battle should be close to 1.6 to 1.8. And the one in front of him is only 1.2, and it is still a foal. Harry, you stop here, don't move around, remember to signal Hagrid for them to join you. Shouting at Harry, Alvin and the unicorn disappeared into the vast darkness, leaving Harry standing stupidly in place, not reacting for a long time. Episode 44. Deep in the Forbidden Forest. Alvin crouched on the unicorn's body, speeding up and down between the tall trees. From time to time, Alvin also communicated with the unicorn and figured out some things. It turned out that the unicorn killed half a month ago was the mother of this little unicorn. Half a month ago, a few days after the little unicorn's mother disappeared, the little unicorn who saw that his mother had never returned, would leave the unicorn tribe in the Forbidden Forest every day and come out to find his mother. However, there has been no progress. Today she went out to look for her as usual, but she met a black-robed man, attacked her, and drank her blood. Alvin knew that the man was Quirrell. Comfortingly patting the unicorn's head, Alvin spoke gently. Follow me in the future, I am your family. The little unicorn rubbed Alvin affectionately, expressing his heart. Seeing such a sensible little unicorn being harmed by Quirrell without a mother, Alvin rarely felt a ball of anger in his heart. It was originally between Harry and Voldemort, but Alvin said that the bond was knotted. Suddenly, Alvin's heart tightened, and he subconsciously released a spell. Armor Protector. A spell of miserable green light hit the armor spell and set off a wave. The unicorn also stopped running at this time, looked around vigilantly, and its front hooves constantly kicked the ground, ready to attack at any time. Alvin calmed the little unicorn and rolled over. Bright as day. Alvin's wand glowed brightly, illuminating the surroundings as if they were daylight. This is an ancient magic version of the flash spell, and the power and flash spell are no longer one level. With this light, Alvin easily found the black-robed man hidden in the darkness. Without hesitation, with a gentle swipe of the black-robed man's wand, a stun spell was launched. The black-robed man did not dare to be careless, rolled to the side, and directly dodged. Little devil, you me off. Angry voices came from under the black robe. Quirrell didn't know what magic was used, there was darkness under the hat, and nothing could be seen. Without seeing him make any moves, a spell came out of his mouth. Oolong out of the hole. A 2-foot-long python snaked out of his battle, and the python was as thick as a small tree trunk. Alvin did not dare to be careless, this was his first life and death duel with a wizard, and his whole body was in a tight state. As soon as the wand lit up, the 2 large trees next to it stood up, the trunk turned into a body, and the branches and roots turned into limbs. 3 steps and 2 steps, he walked to the giant python and began a fierce fight with the giant python. Quirrell was surprised that the little wizard's transfiguration attainment was so high, but he did not hesitate to move his hands. Avada is desperate. A spell of the same color as just now hit Alvin. Alvin was not flustered, and as soon as his wand swept away, he directly swept this life spell aside. A large crater was blown up in the ground. Quirrell didn't expect this little wizard to be so difficult to deal with, and for a while, he made a difficulty whether to go or solve him. Idiot. A first-grade wizard can't solve it, give me your body. Voldemort's disgruntled voice echoed in Quirrell's mind. Quirrell did not dare to resist, so he could only weakly say, Master, you lightly, and handed over control of his body. In the twilight, Alvin felt that the momentum of the wizard on the opposite side instantly changed, becoming more eerie and evil. Alvin hurriedly cast a few armor spells on his body, and then kept the little unicorn away from here. Boy, although your strength is good, it's a pity that you will die here today. A hoarse voice came, like the feeling of chalk scraping a blackboard, and Alvin got goosebumps. Listening to the two different voices before and after, he knew that it was Voldemort coming out. Without saying a word, a destiny spell was cast. This time it felt completely different from just now, with a suffocating sense of oppression. Alvin clenched his wand and frantically poured magic into it. Shout God guard. A silver-white phoenix flew out from between his staff and slammed into the oncoming death curse. Chirp. In the face of this extremely powerful life-threatening curse, the phoenix did not dodge, opened its mouth, and swallowed it in one gulp. Then I saw that the phoenix's body shrunk in a circle, but the castration did not abate, and it hit Quirrell's body fiercely. Boom. Quirrell's body retreated frantically, breaking 4 or 5 trees before stopping like a puddle of mud, motionless. Alvin was unforgiving, and while the dust had not yet dispersed, another powerful spell was used. Flames. A hot flame rose and burned where Quirrell collapsed. Ah! The miserable scream came out of Quirrell's mouth, and the flames had burned to his body and were burning his robes. Damn guys. I will definitely not let you go. After saying that, Quirrell's body turned into a black smoke, breaking through the flame encirclement and flying away from afar. Alvin also heard the moment he broke through the flames, and another scream came out of his mouth. At this time Alvin really relaxed, and the giant python next to him had long been blurred by the flesh and blood of the two tree people. Sitting on the ground, Alvin gasped fiercely. Although it was only a short exchange of a few spells, the thrill in it was definitely unimaginable to ordinary people. Are both Voldemort and Quirrell crazy who continuously release the death curse, not afraid of being swallowed up by negative emotions, and become a walking dead who only knows how to kill but no reason? To know that this is a real world, it is not that the recitation of the spell will have an effect, and a large number of negative emotions will appear after the release of the unforgivable curse of Avidasuo, and the average person has to slow down for half a day. And just now, Quirrell and Voldemort fired 3 shots in a row, all of which were used as regular spells. At this time, the little unicorn came up, looking at Alvin sitting on the ground with big pure and immaculate eyes. Alvin could actually see the worry in it. It is worthy of being a high-level creature in the wizarding world, and its wisdom is definitely no less than that of ordinary humans. Alvin stood up, patted the little unicorn's head, signaled that he was okay, and then looked at the burning flames and the trees that were constantly being consumed by the flames. Episode 45. Looking at the burning forest, Alvin had a headache. How do you put out a fire? After thinking for a long time, Alvin drank a bottle of returning potion and replenished his magic. Then do your best to compress the magic into your wand and lift it high into the sky. Call the wind and rain. As the spell was released, a rain cloud appeared in the sky, and it continued to devour the clouds next to it and expand. It didn't take long for it to start raining, and there was a tendency to get bigger and bigger. Alvin did not stop, but released several freezing spells in a row through the water that rained on the ground, finally contained the fire. Alvin! Alvin! Where are you? Harry's voice was heard in the distance, and Alvin shot another magic firework into the sky, guiding Harry. Soon, Harry and Hagrid's group appeared in front of him. Are you all right, Alvin? What's the fire here? Looking at the fire ahead, there were also dead pythons next to them and 2 motionless tree people. Harry asked with concern. It's okay, I ran into the wizard who attacked the unicorn and fought him. These are all caused by your fights? Swallowing, Harry asked with difficulty. Is the fight between 2 people so exaggerated? He and Hagrid could see the fire in the sky and the chirping of a bird. Most of it was caused by me, and that wizard used the Avada spell. Avada death curse. Hagrid's frightened voice came, becoming sharp and thin, and trembling unconsciously. Merlin. You're actually fighting a dark wizard who uses the Avidasuo spell. No, I have to tell Dumbledore. Alvin shook his head helplessly. How could Hagrid be so timid? Harry next to him was also silent. He knew that Avada had killed his parents and left that scar on his body. He knew all too well how terrifying that spell was. And Alvin, who entered school with himself for a year, fought against that kind of existence and seemed to have won. This made Harry wonder if he was a 5. Okay, don't talk so much here, there's a lot of noise here, let's go first, there's something Hagrid you and Dumbledore report on. Seeing that the fire was gradually extinguished, Alvin had no reason to stay here, and although he was not injured in a big battle today, Alvin still felt a little mentally exhausted. He couldn't wait to get a good night's sleep in bed. Good. Hagrid now dared not look at Alvin as a first-year little wizard, and subconsciously obeyed Alvin's orders. Who is a first-year wizard who can fight a dark wizard? It's not magical. Neville and Malfoy next to him had already been frightened and tears were about to fall when they heard that they were going back. Especially Malfoy. Originally, he felt that Alvin had made Slytherin lose face and was ready to teach Alvin a lesson, but Alvin's excellent performance in class made him press this impulse. He was very glad that he had always only looked for trouble with Harry and did not dare to provoke Alvin, otherwise the grave grass was estimated to be 3 feet tall now. For a moment, his gaze at Harry softened a lot. The group walked towards the outside of the Forbidden Forest, while Alvin sat on the back of the unicorn and slowly followed them from time to time, stroked the unicorn's silky hair. Soon, they came to the entrance of the Forbidden Forest. It's time to part with the little unicorn. Looking at the little unicorn's reluctant eyes, Alvin said that he was cute. Hurriedly patted him on the head. There are a lot of bad people outside, how about you live in the Forbidden Forest temporarily? If you want to find me, go to Hagrid's place, he will inform me. Woo. The little unicorn barked, and suddenly a brilliant glow emanated from its horns, and then it touched Alvin's chest. A 6-pointed star magic array formed on the ground, and many ancient magic texts were also engraved in it. Alvin suddenly felt a connection between him and the little unicorn, and through this, some simple information could be conveyed. This is a very old contract, and the contracted person can not only be connected with the pet through the contract, but some of his magic will also change due to the pet's attributes. It seems that the little unicorn has completely confessed. The Lord Alvin decided to come up with a name for her. Will I call you Celestia in the future? The little unicorn obviously liked the name and exclaimed happily. After solving Celestia's problem, Alvin did not stay and returned to the castle with Harry. Celestia quietly looked at Alvin's departing figure in the distance, until she couldn't see Alvin, and then slowly walked back to the forest. After saying hello to Harry, Alvin went back to his bedroom and slept bored. And the turmoil caused by this incident has just begun. Such a big thing happened, Hagrid couldn't care that it was too late now, and went directly to the headmaster's office on the 8th floor and found Dumbledore,